If you look at your book page, oh, where's the digestive? So if you look at table 23.2 and also another one, figure 23.34, which I made a copy of this one. It's also in your lab packet. So you see these two. 23.2 is giving you the function of the different organs of the GI. And then here, figure 23.34, I like this because it's already breaking down the nutrients. On the left side, it says the food stuff. And then what enzymes and where in the GI tract you see it. So I like this too. I think this is a nice, these two are nice tables and pictures that summarizes the function of your digestive system. So that's what you need to do. You want to start with the oral cavity. So oral cavity, you have your carbs, your proteins, and then your lipids, and then you have mechanical digestion there. Here you have amylase.
So page 892.
So then you end up with glucose plus still some carbs. You bring this down, your protein still intact, your lipids still intact. Then you go down to the pharynx and esophagus. Peristalsis is only going on there. There's no digestion. Then you go to your stomach. By the time it lands in your stomach, this one doesn't look like this. This is what you call bolus. So you want to make a table. So then this bolus goes to the stomach. It will be acted on by what you call gastric juice that's been secreted by your chief cells, secreting pepsin. Your parietal cells secreting intrinsic factor and your hydrochloric acid. Did we discuss the importance of that intrinsic factor? Intrinsic factor is a factor. The factor is a term that a lot of scientists use to refer to a hormone. If there's a debate, so a hormone is a chemical that everyone agrees about the composition. When you see the word factor in any textbook, that means that a lot of the scientists are still debating on the actual chemical configuration of this one. Maybe one scientist says this factor is made up of A and B. The other one says no, it's only B. The other one says it's B plus C. So to be to what do you call for agreement, is that the word? So there's no conflict. Instead of writing an actual name, they just use the word factor. If they know the actual, if they agree that it's really just made up of A, then they will call it a hormone. That's why they have those terms, okay? But this intrinsic factor, it's a chemical. See, it's made by your stomach, okay? And it's toward the pylorus of the stomach. But these other factors right here, you know, the acid and then the pepsin, which is the enzyme. You remember, this is the enzyme that breaks down your proteins. The acid is very important. So the hydrochloric acid will denature the pepsin. Plus, it also actually denatures the proteins that you just ate. So, acid is very effective in denaturing your enzyme, the zymogen, plus the protein in your diet. And then your the pepsin is an enzyme that breaks down. So this one, this acid and the pepsin, these two features of your stomach can be replaced or can be compensated externally. So what you can do, you can solve the problem. If a patient has a deficiency of this one or this one, then you can give them purified food, no problem. Because the part of absorption is in the small intestine. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The only function of the stomach, which I remember it was asked in the test, the only function of the stomach that can never be replaced externally or artificially is this intrinsic factor. Okay? You cannot replace that. I don't know why, but it can't be replaced. That's why people with ulcers maybe or any kind of stomach problem, they have no problems with absorbing their nutrients, but they become anemic. Intrinsic factor is very important. It's important for RBC maturation. It aids in the absorption. This is what intrinsic factor does. It is the key for the absorption of vitamin B12 from your diet. It is the only way we absorb vitamin B12. So B12 on its own cannot be absorbed. We need intrinsic factor so that it can enter our circulation. Do you follow? Vitamin B12 is actually the one that's important for any kind, for DNA. B12 is important for DNA synthesis. Meaning, DNA meaning to make new cells. And we know that red blood cells don't divide. They rely always on your stem cells differentiating to new red blood cells. So that's why intrinsic factor deficiency is always equated with anemia. It's called pernicious anemia. Have you heard of this one? Pernicious. You know, pernicious means deadly or dangerous. Pernicious. So dangerous, pernicious anemia. So that's why this one is not a good diagnosis. It's like it's just like iron deficiency anemia, also not good. But at least with iron deficiency, you can be supplemented with iron. You can solve that problem because really iron you get from the diet. But this one you don't get from the diet. Intrinsic factor you don't get from the diet. You get from your stomach. Does it make you see the difference between iron and intrinsic factor? That's why you get this diagnosis pernicious compared to iron deficiency anemia. You understand the difference? Okay? One more time, don't forget, this was always asked in the test. The only irreplaceable, something that is very unique that you cannot replace as far as the function of the stomach is concerned, is intrinsic factor production. Okay? So then after that, we kept on digesting the result of pepsin acting on the proteins. You end up with what you call chyme. In the meantime, you should know that your nervous system is very important for contraction of muscles. Everything here in your GI tract, part of the wall is smooth muscle. And what tells that muscle to contract is your nervous system. Don't forget that. This is what you call the autonomic nervous system. That's why if we have a stroke, we're going to have problems with digestion. Okay? So, nervous system, very important. You have the word peristalsis. Here you also have churning. And another very important contributor to the health of your of your digestive system is your hormones. So here, the G cells of your stomach make the hormone gastrin. This is a hormone secreted or made by the enteroendocrine cells of your stomach in response to the chyme to the bolus that enters the stomach, right? When the bolus lands here in the stomach, some of the cells make this gastrin. Then what's the target organ of gastrin? The stomach itself. This is the one that will tell all of these cells to start secreting their products. You understand? Remember I said we just studied the function of each and every one of them. The stomach does this, the mouth does this, but something must tell them to do what they're supposed to do. And that's the same thing here. See? Gastrin will tell the chief cells, it will tell the chief cells and the parietal cells, go increase your secretion because there is bolus there. You need to start getting busy. You understand? And then this one, the nerve is telling your muscle, contract please. See, the contraction accomplishes so many things, right? In the stomach, it's breaking the bolus even further into smaller sizes, and it also promotes the match.com, matching the enzyme with the protein because the bus keeps moving. You gotta make sure that the chance for meeting between the protein and the pepsin is really increased. You understand? Okay? So now it became time, and this one goes to the small intestine. So the small intestine is made up of the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. We stop at the jejunum. So here in the duodenum we said is, so the ideal pH, don't forget ideal pH. The stomach, it likes to work under acidic conditions, so the pH here is between 1 to 1.5. Very acidic. The pH in the mouth is alkaline, about 7.3, so alkaline. When it goes down to the small intestine prefers alkaline pH again. So we looked at the duodenum because it's the first part of the small intestine that receives this acid kind. It makes sense that of the three parts of the small intestine, the duodenum is the one that has those extra glands that secrete even extra mucus, the Brunner's glands or submucosal glands, they call it. Okay? To protect the lining from your from the acid of the kind, right here. Then here in the duodenum, these cells. This is called brush border because you're gonna open up your cat also, okay? So you will see and compare the rugae. Remember rugae in the stomach, and then the villi in your small intestine. The villi are the permanent folds. The rugae are the temporary folds. So when you open up your GI tract, really cut it open and then stretch it. Look, look for yourself. Prove to yourself that this is really this, etc., etc. You will see when you get to the ileum, there's the poop over there. Okay? Okay, so here, it will look like the terry cloth of your towel. So it's very, what do you call felt? Is that called felt, that material? Felt that has like that. Felt, is that the material?
The felt is the one with like the hooks that hold the other hand.
Oh, what's the one that, huh?
Terry cloth? Is that
The
what
one that,
yeah, that's what she's talking about.
it's not the terry, well, I guess it's like terry coat, but there's another one that's like velvet. Anyway, whatever. So you'll see that it's like a wrap like that, okay? So that's what you see when you open up your cats in the small intestine. And then in the stomach, it's really just folds like this, very smooth. You see the difference, smooth and that's rough, and that's why it's called brush border. So these enzymes right here, some of them you will still have some enzymes here. This is the one that you see under the microscope, the simple columnar. Some of them will still secrete mucus, but there are other cells here. So you have the mucus secreting cells here, but you also have some cells that secrete the enzyme enterokinase. Remember? Then maltase, sucrase, and lactase. You know what these three enzymes target, right? The last uh, glycosidic bond between your sugar molecules, just the last bond. But the amylase, is from your pancreas. So this amylase is a carb digesting enzyme that targets the longer chain carbs. This is one glucose, 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 glucose. This multi-sucrase lactase can only target the terminal. So once it's broken down to two chains like this, then this one can target this. Where did this come from? From here. Where did this come from? From your pancreas. You cannot survive without your pancreas because the small intestine can only target the terminal bonds. Okay? What about this one? What is this enterokinase? This one will not digest the protein that you ate. The job of this enterokinase is to activate the zymogens from your pancreas again. So remember, your pancreas secretes your trypsinogen, remember the chymotrypsin, ribonuclease, elastase, all of those zymogens, they're all in zymogen form. So this enzyme, this enterokinase, which is a brush border enzyme made by my duodenum, my small intestine, this serves to activate or convert the zymogens from your pancreas to an active form. So it's still the pancreatic enzymes that will digest my proteins. You see that? Okay? Then there is another enzyme from your pancreas called the lipase, right? The lipase will digest your lipids. Remember? But the lipids here, so far, they're still clumped together because fat is not easily dissolved in watery kind. So number one. Number two, we're almost close to the last, the ileum. The ileum, which is the last part of your small intestine. Tell me if it's confusing, okay? The ileum, which is the last part of the small intestine, this one here is where you have the beginning of your feces. Okay? So look at, we're in the duodenum, we're running out of time, you see? And still, the fat right here in the duodenum is one big ball of fat. That's why here there's another accessory organ called the gallbladder. The gallbladder will squirt bile here. You remember the advantage? We discussed that the gallbladder is made by your liver and it's stored and concentrated in your gallbladder. And what does the gallbladder do? It squirts it on demand, right? So what the gallbladder does, emulsifies the fat. It will convert this to smaller globules like this, so that my lipase, which is from the pancreas, this lipase can more efficiently digest your fat than if it was a big globule. It will take longer because enzymes can only target the outer surfaces. It makes sense, right? So far? Now, there is another. Remember, we always have nerve and endocrine system. They also work. We're studying, this is what it does, this is what the pancreas does, this is what the gallbladder does, this is what's going on in the duodenum. Remember, we just discussed that. What told them to do what they're supposed to do? Nervous system and endocrine system. Of course, your nervous system, once the food is here, it's a reflex, right? Reflex peristalsis, reflex segmentation. Here, the local muscular movement, segmentation. Promotes the meeting or match.com between the nutrients, the carbs, the proteins, and the lipids, and the enzymes. Segmentation. These are localized muscular contractions in your small intestine to lock your nutrients in a segment, increasing the chance for the enzymes to act on them. Okay? Then there's that other Muscular movement, peristalsis. What told the muscles to do their job? Autonomic nervous system. Now, the enteroendocrine cells here, some cells here are enteroendocrine cells. They make hormones. These are the two hormones made by the enteroendocrine cells, specifically in my duodenum area. They are cholecystokinin and secretin. Okay? What is the target organ? Are you following so far? Everybody, is it clear or is it too fast? You got it? Yes? Okay. So, this cholecystokinin, the target of this one is your gallbladder and the stomach. And I want you to tell me, what do you think? Remember, the bolus is now here. So the food is now here in your small intestine. What do you think will cholecystokinin tell the stomach to do? Will it tell the stomach to increase activity or decrease activity? What do you think? Decrease? Very good. Right? It will tell the slow down. It will tell the stomach, I'm busy right here. I have to remember, look at what the small intestine has to do. It has to finish breaking it down and absorb. It needs time. If the stomach keeps on dumping and dumping and dumping, you won't be able to do your digestion and absorption very efficiently. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
So, what will it promote in the stomach? Increased activity or decreased? Decreased. Decreased muscle contraction. Just decrease everything. Okay. Now another target organ of cholecystokinin is this one, the gallbladder. This one, what do you think? Will it tell this one? Increase or decrease? Increase. Very good. Right? Because it needs the help from the gallbladder to emulsify the fat. So this one increase, this one decrease. Very good. Next, another hormone secreted by specifically the duodenum enteroendocrine cells is secretin. The target of this one is your pancreas. Okay, you tell me, what will it tell the pancreas? Increase, decrease?
Increase.
Very good. Increase. Very good. See how they talk? Your little minions? They have to be told. We're talking about someone has to tell the pancreas to do it. Do you see why they refer to the endocrine system and the nervous system as the two key systems maintaining homeostasis? You cannot do these digestive activities without being told by your hormones and your nervous system. Okay? Do you follow so far? Too fast? No? Okay, now we keep moving. So, see, you're giving it time, slowing down of the stomach. Now you have your enzymes acting on your nutrients. By the time you get to the jejunum part, the second part of your small intestine, you now have your breakdown products, glucose, amino acids, and free fatty acids. Okay? There are other hormones that's discussed in the book. I just picked on the three most important ones. They're all important, but from here, I just want you to see how your endocrine system and nervous system come into play. So you see that you have your pepsin for your stomach, you have the cholecystokinin and the secretin. That's how they talk. Remember, these are everything in you. Just when you watch the movie Minions, think of your body. You have minions, they're always talking to one another. Okay? So now we're in the jejunum, and when you get to the jejunum, we're now ready to absorb. See? It's just absorbed in the jejunum. And you have two routes for absorption. Of course, you have your cardiovascular blood and your lymphatic system. How do we absorb them? Diffusion, right? They will just diffuse because I know that my GI is going to be very high in concentration of the nutrients, so they just follow, they move down their concentration gradient. What will enter my blood? Your amino acids, right? My glucose, so monosaccharides and my amino acids. What will enter the um,
Lymphatic.
lymphatics? Your
Which is
free
fats.
fatty acids. So this lymphatic capillary, blood capillary. The lymphatic capillary is referred to as lacteal. So the word lacteal means nothing but a capillary, lymphatic capillary. So where is this in the meantime, what else can you absorb here? You can also absorb everything else. Remember we talked about you also took your vitamins, you also took some meds, everything is in their most basic form, so you can absorb them here now. They join. They just follow, move down, follow this one, co-transport and enter circulation. What if, so you also have meds, you also have alcohol, you may also have some arsenic in there or food color, whatever that can be harmful, they will enter your circulation. And that's why it was very important for you guys to appreciate this one right here. See, look at, they enter your circulation. Look at the first stop. Look at our first stop. So I absorb possible toxic substances, right? Maybe even some poison, who knows, or germs, whatever. See, look at the first stop is my liver. So here in the liver, what's waiting for maybe the harmful substances, what's waiting for them are what you call the Kupffer cells. Kupffer cells are nothing but phagocytes. So hopefully they can break down whatever harmful substances you have there, break it down to its component, organic and inorganic compounds, so let it pass through as harmless, organic, inorganic. It will pass through. See, it will enter your heart. See that? At the same time, can you picture? Look at what is passing here is nutrient-rich blood, right? It's nutrient-rich blood. So the liver is busy. It's packing its own cells with glucose, store it as glycogen, and then the extra goes to the rest of the body. That's what we're going to use now to power us for energy for your cells. But after you're done eating and your glucose level is slowly going down, you have your liver to tide you over. You see? That's why your liver is so important. What else is your liver doing? It's grabbing the amino acids, making the proteins you need. So when it leaves, it's now the albumin, it's now the globulin, it's now the protein that you needed. You absorbed it as amino acid. The liver used it to make the protein you need, and now it's in your body. It's going to be distributed. Amazing what your liver does. What else? We discussed alcohol. If there's alcohol here, the liver will have to convert it. Don't forget, the liver converts any alcohol to fat immediately because alcohol is toxic. So that when it leaves, it doesn't leave as alcohol, it leaves as fat. If we drink over, this is what we discussed earlier. It is when we drink over the 0.08 limit that you feel the buzz. When you feel the buzz, that means you have overloaded or overworked your liver. That the liver was not, that there was extra alcohol that escaped. When it escaped, you start feeling the buzz. But as it's trying to escape and you're feeling the buzz, the liver is now switching to plan B. It's using the organelle called the microsome. Remember, we discussed that. The microsome of the liver will try to convert any more extra alcohol above the 0.08, is still going to try to convert that to less toxic forms. But it needs oxygen. So in the meantime, some alcohol has spilled out. It's still because it's already overloaded. So alcohol is a depressant, nervous system depressed, your reaction time depressed, breathing depressed, and most of the oxygen being grabbed by your liver. That's why alcohol intoxication can be deadly. Okay? So that's what's entering your heart and you pump it. So what is the predominant during meals? Glycogenesis. Glycogenesis. After meals, it's called glycogenolysis. Okay? Do you have any questions so far? Okay? So now we go down to, so we have absorbed. By the time you get to the ileum, do you agree? It is now feces. The ileum is the beginning of feces. So that's why if we look at this picture right here, I don't know if you can see it very clearly. Everybody pay attention. If you don't pay attention, I am going to stop the lecture and I'm just going to leave it up to you. Okay? I try as much as I don't come in here not prepared. I always come in here and the ileum. This is the last part of your of the small intestine. If you look at the ileum, look at the ileum has a lot of what you call lymphatic tissue. What is a tissue? A collection of cells. Two or more cells make up a tissue. Remember, the difference between a lymphatic organ, like your lymph node, it's obvious. It has actual boundaries, a shape. A lymphatic tissue is a tissue where there's a collection of cells. And this is very, very common in your ileum, which is the last part of your small intestine. Compare this one with this one. This is your duodenum. What you see in the duodenum, if you look at your book, is lots and lots of glands. These are glands, remember, it's epithelium. These glands make extra mucus. You go to the ileum, you don't see glands. What you will see in the ileum is lots and lots of lymphatic tissue. It's called Peyer's patches. Why? Because it's close to the colon. There's feces in there. So by the time we get to the ileum, we're done. We're done digesting. We absorbed everything, and what's left is feces. Okay, I want you to pay attention to this part of the small intestine. The junction between the small intestine and the colon. So there's that appendix right there. So this part is just the large intestine. This is the colon. It starts with the ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoid, then the rectum, then the anus. Here we know for sure this is just poop. This is all poop. You look at this appendix. When you open up your cat, look for the appendix. You'll be surprised. It is so small. For us, it's just this big. It is so small. You're going to write down in your notes that the appendix is actually not a digestive organ. It is a lymphatic organ. Here in this model right here, it's exaggerated. This part right here. That's the donut. Not the donut. I was looking at the donut. That's the appendix over here. I left this the House of Donuts. Okay, so that's the appendix, and look for that in your cat. You'll be shocked. You'll be like, that's the appendix. It's so small and it looks like a flap of fat. But this one is a lymphatic organ. You see how very um, wise God is? He put it right there at the junction between your ileum and your colon, because what's here is poop, and we know poop is dirty. There's a lot of germs in there. So to prevent those germs, the bacteria, from taking over, we have this one that has lots of white blood cells. I know some people have had their appendix taken out, appendicitis. Appendicitis can be very deadly if it ruptures. Can you imagine if it ruptures? It's trying to fight bacteria. So when it ruptures, the danger is you go into sepsis. Have you heard of the word sepsis? Overwhelming infection here. So we can take that out. If you take that out, you can still survive. You just lost that extra help, extra soldier. But you have lots of lymphatic organs everywhere. It's really something that you can live without, but it benefits us if we still have it intact. The next is yours, large intestine. The difference between small and large intestine is its function, number one, and also its anatomically, you can tell that this is large intestine. You won't have any more microvilli, you won't have any more of those plicae circularis or circular folds. Here in the small intestine, what you will see, just look at the difference. With the small intestine, you will see very distinct this puckered appearance of the wall of your large intestine. Did I say small? This is large intestine. The smooth muscle, remember there's an outer longitudinal and inner circular. The longitudinal smooth muscle of your large intestine, instead of encompassing the entire circumference of the wall of this one, it's in three walls. It's called tinea coli, right here, which is not the bacteria. No, it's not bacteria. The parasite. It's not a parasite. I don't know why they called it. It's the same term that refers to the pork parasite, Taenia coli. But that's the term. It's like three columns. So again, see, that's why it's like this. You see the difference between small and large. Because the smooth muscle is in three columns. So when the smooth muscle contracts, it makes its puckering appearance. And that's why when you look at the poop, it has that shape also because of where it's located. Is there any more digestion going on in the small intestine? In the large intestine? No more, you're done. It's busy absorbing now. First of all, you have lots of mucus cells, so lots of goblet cells. It makes sense because feces can be abrasive, especially maybe if you didn't drink enough water, so it can be abrasive. So lots of goblet cells here in the large intestine. You're also busy absorbing, but you're no longer going to absorb your nutrients. Here, you're not absorbing your glucose, your amino acids, and your fatty acids. Those three main nutrients, those energy yielding nutrients, are absorbed in the small intestine. What you absorb here are your minerals, your water. You absorb them there. You also absorb a very important vitamin, B12 and vitamin K. Where did these two vitamins come from? They were produced by the bacteria that is always present in your colon. Okay? So, we know that this is dirty, there's germs in there. But we have to feed the germs. We feed them and they give this to us in exchange. So the food that we discarded, we call it as waste. It's food for the bacteria, and this is what they give us. Then we absorb it. What do you require to absorb this? Intrinsic fat. So we know this is very important for red blood cell. What is this? K for very good. Vitamin K is your clotting vitamin. It's very important for clotting. I remember you were asked this in your test, right? That's why people who have had colon surgery, you give them vitamin K supplements or penicillin. Anyone who's on long-term antibiotic, do you agree? If you're on long-term oral antibiotics, then there may be the chance or the danger that you can also kill the friendly bacteria here. So you have to give them. You give them extra this one or even this one too. We go back. There was another question in your digestive system. Now that you know how your digestive system works, now that you know that the stomach is acidic, and it denatures what? Acid will denature what?
Protein.
Very good. Acid denatures protein. Now I hope it's making sense to you guys that there are some drugs that cannot be given orally. They won't be effective. Once they get to the stomach, they will be denatured. So these drugs that can only be in injectable form must be protein-based drugs or hormones. Like, have you ever heard of oral insulin? No. Insulin is injected. Why? You're going to be asked that even in your final exam. Why is insulin only injected? Because it's a protein hormone. Yes. So if you ingested that, your stomach will just denature it. It won't be effective. I remember that was one of the questions asked in your final exams. Always think. Always think. Now you understand. There are some drugs you can take orally. If you can take it orally, you know that it's not a protein hormone. If it's only injectable, you know it's because it's protein based. And even with drugs, that's why there's always a sign on your medication, right? It says discard. If there's any extra, throw it out. They tell you to take your medicine for only 7 days, take it for only 7 days. Don't take it for longer because you worry about this. And the gifts that they give to you, your vitamin B12 and your vitamin K. So now we're down here. We now have to poop, by the way. So here, this slide 93, 94, 95. This is the same as your the page in your book, the figure that breaks it down, but I just have it here. One just for carbs, another one just for proteins, and the other one just for fat. And then this next slide is what you have in your book, breaking it down, even including the enzymes and where. Look at this. Now we know how we absorbed our nutrients, our amino acids, our monosaccharides, and our free fatty acids. Look at how you absorb your minerals and your water, the vitamins, everything. How do you absorb them? Look at, they follow a gradient. Follows concentration gradient. Okay? That's why it's very, very important to drink your water. It follows concentration gradient. So it makes sense when you have Let's say diarrhea, when you're losing lots of water, it's very, at that point, it's also very hard to absorb minerals. That's why they tell you, eat lots of bananas, lots of oranges. This is high in potassium, all that stuff. And you know that you need this. We're going to study acid base and electrolyte. You're going to see what is the first thing that will come to your mind when this is the problem, when this is the, they all have their areas of specialty. You can go into acidosis, you can have heart problems even, you can have blood pressure problems if this is not absorbed. It's very important for us to drink our water. So, last step is to poop. How do you poop? Here in the anus, you have two sphincters here. So the feces is right here now. You know that when any part of your GI tract is expanded, it triggers a reflex. The smooth muscles, right? They respond by contracting. It's a reflex. By the time you get here, another reflex comes into play because you have a sphincter here. This sphincter has to be opened. This is a sacral reflex. You don't need your brain to open these sphincters. Sorry. There's two sphincters here. An internal anal sphincter, which is smooth muscle. You remember this is entirely smooth muscle, the wall of your GI tract smooth muscle, right? So the internal anal sphincter is the most inferior part of the smooth muscle. There's increased muscle tone that you call it a sphincter. The external anal sphincter is skeletal muscle. That part is voluntary. So what happens when the when the feces enters here? It triggers a defecation reflex, which is a sacral reflex in the sacral spinal cord level, which loops to go back to the internal anal sphincter. It will tell the internal anal sphincter to relax and open up. And so when it opens up, that's when you feel the urge to poop. But then your external anal sphincter is still closed. So how do you open that? You have to increase pressure, right? So how do you poop? Don't we all increase pressure? Because again, does this have legs? No. Poop has no legs. They can't walk from here to out. You have to push it out. And so it makes sense if you work in the nursing home. Some people get constipated if they had a stroke. This is regulated by the nervous system. It's not able to contract. So you have to help them. Sometimes you have to go in there even and bring that poop out. It's just a normal event that happens when the nervous system is cut. See how the digestive system is dependent on your nervous system and your endocrine system. So we're done. We're done with the food. We poop it out and we absorb. The next talks about once we have absorbed it, it enters our circulation. What happens to these nutrients once it gets absorbed? That's the topic of chapter 24, nutrition, metabolism, and temperature regulation. Okay, break for 5 minutes.